Iran just pulled the trigger on the threat it has been holding over the global economy for 45 years. Not a missile launch, not an attack on tankers, not the kind of dramatic military action that generates immediate headlines and demands an immediate response. Something quieter, something slower, something far more devastating. Naval mines, hundreds of them, deployed across the shipping lanes of the Strait of Hormuz in the last 14 hours. And the world didn't hear a single shot fired. The first indication came at 4:17 in the morning, Gulf time, when the tanker Pacific Voyager, a 300,000-ton very large crude carrier loaded with 2 million barrels of Saudi oil, reported a hull breach 12 nautical miles south of Bandar Abbas. The explosion was captured on crew video that is now circulating through maritime intelligence channels. Fire suppression activated. Crew evacuated to lifeboats. The ship is currently listing 15 degrees and taking on water. By 6:30 in the morning, 2 more vessels had reported explosions. The container ship Mediterranean Star and the bulk carrier Asian Fortune. Neither was sunk, but both are damaged, drifting, and blocking traffic in the outbound shipping lane. By 8 o'clock, every major shipping company in the world had issued the same order. All vessels hold position, do not attempt Hormuz transit, await further guidance. Here's what that order means in barrels and dollars. 21 million barrels of oil transit the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That is 21% of all the petroleum the world consumes. That is the energy that powers Japan, South Korea, China, India, and Europe. That is the crude that becomes the gasoline in your car, the diesel in the trucks that deliver your food, the jet fuel that moves people and products around the world. 21 million barrels, not slowed, not reduced, stopped completely. The tankers that were supposed to exit the Persian Gulf today are anchored. The tankers that were supposed to enter are holding in the Gulf of Oman. The loading terminals at Ras Tanura, Karg Island, and Fujairah are still pumping oil into ships that have nowhere to go. The flow that has been continuous since the 1970s has stopped, and the mines that stopped it cannot be cleared in hours or days. They take weeks, weeks during which 21 million barrels a day don't move, weeks during which the global economy begins to starve. Iran didn't fire a single shot at an American warship. Iran didn't launch missiles at Allied bases. Iran dropped metal objects into the water and walked away. And those metal objects just accomplished what 45 years of sanctions couldn't. They handed Iran control over the global economy. To understand why clearing this minefield takes far longer than anyone wants to acknowledge, you have to understand what Iran deployed. Naval mines come in multiple varieties, and Iran appears to have used all of them. Contact mines are the simplest. Metal spheres with trigger horns that detonate when a ship's hull makes physical contact. Iran has stockpiled an estimated 2,000 to 3,000 of these based on Soviet-era designs. They are cheap, reliable, and effective. A single contact mine can breach the hull of a supertanker and render it unseaworthy. Then there are influence mines, more sophisticated weapons that detect ships through magnetic signatures, pressure changes, or acoustic profiles. The mine sits on the seafloor, invisible to surface vessels, waiting for a target with the right characteristics to pass overhead. Iran's domestically manufactured EM-52 rocket-propelled mine, based on a Chinese design, sits at depths up to 200 meters and launches a warhead upward at 80 meters per second. The ship doesn't need to reach the mine comes to the ship. What makes influence mines particularly devastating for clearance operations is this: they can be programmed with ship counters. The mine ignores the first 5 vessels that pass overhead. It detonates on the 6th. Clearance vessels sweep the area, detect nothing, declare it safe, and the next commercial ship that transits hits a mine that was designed to wait. Iran has spent 45 years studying mine warfare specifically because mines are the asymmetric equalizer. They are fast to lay and slow to neutralize. One night of mining operations can create a hazard that takes months to fully eliminate. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide. The shipping lanes, the traffic separation scheme tankers must follow, are approximately 6 miles wide. Intelligence estimates suggest Iran deployed between 200 and 400 mines across that 6-mile corridor overnight. One mine every 25 to 50 meters, extending approximately 30 kilometers along the length of the strait. The U.S. Navy's mine countermeasures capability can neutralize perhaps 20 to 30 mines per day under optimal conditions: no hostile fire, clear weather, calm seas, accurately charted minefields. None of those conditions apply here. Iranian coastal defenses remain active. Anti-ship missiles cover the clearance areas. IRGC fast attack boats have been observed positioning near the mine barriers. At 30 mines per day against 400 mines deployed, clearance takes 2 weeks at minimum. Under combat conditions, 4 to 6 weeks is the more realistic estimate. 6 weeks, 42 days. At 21 million barrels per day, that is 882 million barrels of oil that don't reach their destinations. The entire strategic petroleum reserve of the United States holds 347 million barrels. The math is catastrophic, and the math started the moment those mines hit the water. But the mine deployment itself, as devastating as it is not the most significant development of the last 14 hours. because what Iran did after laying the mines tells you exactly how long they intend this closure to last. 6 hours after the first mine detonation was reported, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps issued a statement containing 3 demands. First, complete withdrawal of all American military forces from the Persian Gulf region within 30 days. Not reduction, withdrawal, every ship, every aircraft, every soldier. Second, permanent lifting of all sanctions against Iran, verified by international observers, before any mine clearance cooperation would even be considered. Third, recognition of Iranian sovereignty over the Strait's northern waters, and acknowledgement of Iran's right to regulate traffic through what they termed Iranian territorial passages. The translation is simple. Iran is not clearing these mines until America leaves the Middle East. The demands are designed to be unacceptable. No American president can withdraw from the Gulf under military coercion without destroying American credibility worldwide. No administration can lift sanctions as a condition of removing a military threat without inviting identical coercion from every adversary on Earth. Iran knows the demands won't be met. They aren't negotiating positions. They are justification for extended closure. Iran can tell the world it offered conditions and America refused, while the mines remain in the water for months. Iran also offered to permit humanitarian shipments through a safe corridor that Iran would designate and control. Ships carrying food and medicine could transit after Iranian inspection and approval. Oil tankers would remain blocked. This offer serves several purposes simultaneously. It gives Iran propaganda cover, the claim that it is not starving the world, merely denying oil to hostile nations. It creates an intelligence-gathering mechanism, as every ship that transits the corridor passes under Iranian inspection. And it fractures the international coalition that might otherwise form against Iran, as nations dependent on Gulf. Food imports may pressure the United States to negotiate rather than escalate. The mines are not just weapons, they are leverage, and Iran has engineered the situation to maximize that leverage while minimizing the justification for military response. Here's the reality American commanders are confronting. The mines are in the water. Attacking Iran doesn't remove the mines. Striking Iranian coastal defenses doesn't remove the mines. Bombing Tehran doesn't remove the mines. The only way to remove the mines is the slow, methodical clearance process that takes weeks regardless of what military action occurs. Iran can absorb retaliation and the mines stay. Iran can lose ships, bases, and lives, and the mines stay. The oil remains trapped no matter what happens to Iran because the problem isn't Iran. The problem is the objects Iran placed in the water. Global markets responded faster than any military force could. Oil prices opened 47% higher on Asian markets. Brent Crude, which closed Friday at $89 a barrel, is trading at $131 as of the last update. Circuit breakers designed to prevent market crashes have triggered 3 times. Goldman Sachs issued an emergency projection: $175 per barrel within 72 hours, $200 within 1 week if the Strait remains closed. Morgan Stanley's estimate is higher, $220 by day 10. But those figures assume a temporary closure. If markets conclude this will extend for weeks, projections enter territory that was never modeled because it was assumed impossible. $300, $400, numbers that break the models because the models assume supply can be restored. The supply cannot be restored until the mines are cleared. The mines cannot be cleared for weeks. Reports from Los Angeles show gasoline prices above $7 a gallon at some stations this morning. By tomorrow, that will be common. By next week, $8 will be standard in high-cost markets. European markets face worse. Europe imports 30% of its oil through the Strait of Hormuz. There are no alternatives. Pipeline capacity from Russia was reduced after the Ukraine sanctions. North Sea production is in decline. African supply is committed to existing contracts. The European Commission convened an emergency session 4 hours after the mining was confirmed. Energy ministers from 27 nations are discussing rationing protocols not considered since the 1973 Arab oil embargo. Germany is projecting industrial shutdowns within 2 weeks. Japan imports 90% of its oil. South Korea imports 97%. Both nations have strategic reserves covering approximately 150 days. Reserves designed to supplement supply during disruptions, not replace it entirely during extended closures. If the closure extends beyond 4 weeks, Asian nations face a choice between keeping factories running and keeping homes heated. You cannot do both when supply is this constrained. China begins contracting by week 3. When Chinese factories slow, the global manufacturing supply chain begins breaking shortly after. The military options available to the United States don't solve the problem within any relevant time frame. Forcing mine clearance under fire means accepting casualties among minesweepers, vessels that are lightweight by design, and American commanders are estimating potential losses of 3 to 5 ships and 200 to 400 sailors in such an operation, while the 2-week timeline stretches toward 2 months. Suppressing Iranian coastal defenses first with an air campaign takes 7 to 14 days of sustained operations, during which the mines remain in the water, and the economic cascade continues accelerating against defenses that are hardened, dispersed, and mobile. Negotiating means conceding that mining the Strait works and destroying the deterrents that prevented it for 45 years. None of these options stop the cascade. Each one simply chooses which price to pay while the damage accumulates. Mines don't require winning, they require waiting. And Iran can wait longer than the global economy can. The mines cost Iran perhaps $5 million to deploy. The economic damage in the first week alone will exceed $500 billion. The cost exchange ratio is 100,000 to 1. No weapon in history has achieved such asymmetric effect. Pay attention to fuel prices this week. Pay attention to shipping announcements. Pay attention to the gap between what governments promise and what physics allows. The mines are in the water. The oil has stopped. The countdown to consequences that will reach every household on Earth has already begun, and the Strait will never be what it was.